Well, viewers, yes, it is in fact me, Rufio, the fabled Yugi tuber. I've noticed these days I probably release a little bit more Warhammer content than anything else, and even that's primarily just shorts. But today, of all things, I'm looking at something that I didn't really expect to be covering, but it's something I wanted to talk about and just tell you kind of how stupid some people can be. Today, whilst browsing the famous Facebook we all know and love, one of the greatest sources of disinformation you can imagine, today I'd seen a copy of a DMCA which has been doing the rounds and a lot of people have been getting hit with. Now, I should stress, if you are copying Games Workshop IP or you are getting pretty close to it, there's a good chance you are going to get slapped with one of these. But let's be honest, a lot of people are getting close to the line and it's kind of acceptable, but you can see that maybe they'd frown a little bit about it. Now, one thing I'm reasonably good at is paying attention to detail. Given I work in IT, I'm often on the lookout for fake emails and those kind of things, and well, you might be able to see where this is going. So I saw a copy of one of these DMCAs that was received, I'm not going to say who by, and there is some information obfuscated. And this didn't come directly from source, so I've not gotten this from anyone who says they've received it, it's just something I've seen circulating, and it could be a load of bollocks anyway. But let's work on the assumption that it isn't. So first, let's start off by looking at a copy of this DMCA that someone has allegedly received from Games Workshop. Now, it could be that I'm entirely wrong, and in fact, this is all legitimate, and it is from them, but I'm inclined not to believe that. Okay, so let's start with some of the information that is in here. Firstly, design, name, shape of the project. This is what they are claiming is infringing. So it says here, everything published by this creator in the links provided is property of Warhammer 40k brand, to which he has absolutely no rights. Let's start there. Firstly, I have never, in all my time seeing any kind of comms coming from Games Workshop, seen them phrase it as Warhammer 40k. It is always Warhammer 40,000, and they do it usually with the full numbers rather than 40k, so I'd be surprised. That alone is kind of one, red flag to me. Next up, we've got referring to the Space Marine helmets and armour that are the most popular, ending with Alpha Legion and Chaos Legion, which were added in the last days and are also added to my immediate removal notice of this content. Well, firstly, the phrasing on this seems kind of poor at best. I bring your attention to the fact that it says Space Marine with no capitalisation, no spacing, so it's not two words, it's one here. And that is something that I can tell you, having dealt with people who deal with marketing and things like that for companies, they are big on all of this. Their IP, it's really, really important that things are spelled out correctly, that there's no grammatical mistakes around them, and I can tell you that strikes me as another red flag. Next up, we've got the fact that armour is spelt with OR, which is the Americanized spelling for this. And if there's someone who's based in Nottingham, it's highly unlikely that they'd be spelling it this way, unless they happen to be an American that's came over, but I just think that's highly unlikely. Next up, we see the references to Alpha Legion and Chaos Legion. I, again, wouldn't expect to see a Chaos Legion reference, again, unless they're referring to a specific product, which, this person is being DMCA'd for, which says Chaos Legion on it, but again, I think that this is just incorrect. And then, again, the rest of the phrasing on this just doesn't seem all that right. Following on from that, we have a couple of other pieces I should point out here. Firstly, this has come from a Gmail address as the reference at the bottom there, which, just incorrect. There's almost no world in which you're going to see official comms come in, especially in the likes of a DMCA, coming from a Gmail address. And on top of that, you see this phone number here, +27. Now, I will tell you this for free, having lived there for a while, that +27 is in fact a South African country code. Now, the +27 replaces the O, so it'd be 0207 794 257. That is a digit shorter than the numbers you get in the UK, so once again, confirming that I do not believe this has come from a legitimate source. So once again, it's important to reiterate to you that you pay attention to detail. This is as much a security lesson, an IT lesson if you want to call it those, as well as interesting for those of you who maybe are making cosplay props or, your own custom models and things like that maybe you're giving away for free or selling. Obviously, of course, you shouldn't be ripping off any IP. We all know that, but I know a lot of you will be kind of getting very, very close to that line where maybe you could get into a little bit of trouble. Well, this is a good opportunity for you to spot a fake DMCA from my, to my mind, to my opinion, for what it's worth, and probably not worth a lot. But it's something maybe to keep an eye out for. And of course, if you're worried about those things, maybe you've got a little bit close to the line. Maybe you should be a bit worried. But I suspect in this case, if you receive one of these emails from one of these idiots who doesn't really know what they're doing, you're probably a little bit safe to swiftly ignore it. I bring this up because I've seen a lot in the community about people complaining about having to take things down that they've been sharing or creating themselves with DMCA requests. And it seems like a lot of them could be coming from this same source. So I'd be willing to bet that this is maybe another disgruntled content creator or someone like that who just kind of wants to eliminate the competition, or maybe it's some kind of way into some sort of scam. I mean, the greatest of respects, given that this is coming from South Africa, that's not entirely impossible, let me tell you, having lived there. Not entirely Warhammer content, but I guess it's relatively interesting for those of you who are out there doing this kind of thing. Something to keep an eye out for. Anyway, enough waffling on from me. Thanks for coming along. I do appreciate you being here. And if you want to see some absolutely rubbish painted models, subscribe and you'll get a shit ton of shorts coming through your feed.